The bank was busy that morning. People stood in long lines. Phones hung. Printers made noise. Everyone looked serious. Then, a young black woman walked inside. She did not rush. She did not look nervous. She walked calmly, holding a small envelope in her hand. Her clothes were clean but simple. No expensive bag. No utility. No loud voice. So people looked at her. Some looked away. She walked to the counter and waited. The bank manager noticed her. He was a middle-aged man, well-dressed, confident, used to being respected. He looked at her from head to toe. His eyes stopped on her shoes. He frowned. When it was her turn, she stepped forward and spoke softly. "Good morning. I want to deposit this check." She placed the envelope on the counter. The manager opened it slowly. At first, he looked bored. Then his eyes widened. He leaned closer. He looked again. The number on the check was very big. Too big. He let out a small laugh. "Is this a joke?" he said. The young woman stayed calm. "No, sir," she replied. "It is real." The manager laughed louder. People nearby began to listen. "This amount," he said, tapping the check, "is not for someone like you." The young woman blinked. "My mother gave it to me," she said politely. "She asked me to deposit it." The manager shook his head. "Your mother?" he asked. "Does she even know what this amount means?" The bank grew quiet. Everyone was watching now. The manager leaned back in his chair. "You people come here every day," he said loudly, "with fake checks and fake stories." The young woman felt her chest tighten, but she did not raise her voice. "Sir," she said, "please just check the system." The manager sighed. He stood up. He held the check high in the air. "This is fake," he said, "and I will not waste my time." Then, without warning, he tore the check in half. Gasps filled the room. He tore it again, and again. Small pieces of paper fell to the floor. The young woman froze. Her hand shook slightly. The manager dropped the pieces on the counter. "There," he said coldly. "Now leave." The room was silent. No one spoke. No one moved. The young woman looked down at the torn paper. Her heart hurt, but her face stayed calm. Slowly, she bent down. She picked up each piece of the check. One by one, people whispered. Security guards watched her closely. The manager crossed his arms. "Next customer," he said. The young woman stood up straight. She looked at the manager. Not angry, not crying, just calm. "My mother will hear about this," she said quietly. The manager laughed. "Tell her whatever you want," he replied. "People like you always do." The words hit her like a slap. She turned and walked away. But she did not leave the bank. She stopped near the door. She took out her phone. Her hands were steady. She made one call. The phone rang once, then twice. Then someone answered. "Yes," a woman's voice said. The young woman took a deep breath. "Mom," she said. They tore the check. There was a pause. A long pause. The noise of the bank faded. "What do you mean?" the woman asked calmly. "The bank manager," the young woman replied. "He said it was fake." Another pause. Then the voice changed. Not angry. Not loud. Just firm. "Which bank?" her mother asked. The young woman looked back at the counter. The manager was laughing with another customer. She gave the name of the bank. Her mother said only one thing. "Stay there." The call ended. The young woman lowered her phone. No one knew what just happened. No one knew who she called. No one knew who her mother was. The manager smiled proudly. He thought he had won. He thought he was powerful. But outside the bank, a black luxury car slowly stopped. And everything was about to change. The young black woman did not move. She stood near the bank door, holding the torn pieces of the check in her hand. People around her whispered. Some shook their heads. Some looked away. No one helped. The bank felt colder now. A security guard watched her closely, as if she had done something wrong. The manager did not even look at her anymore. To him, she was already invisible. The young woman took a slow breath. Her heart felt heavy, but she remembered her mother's words. Never react in anger, her mother always said. Power is calm. She looked at the small pieces of paper in her hand. Each piece meant something. Not money. Respect. She remembered her childhood. Her mother never lived like a rich woman. No big house. No expensive clothes. No loud life. Her mother woke up early. Worked late. Spoke little. When people asked what she did for work, her mother smiled and said, "I do business." That was all. The young woman grew up, learning one rule. Never show power. Because real power does not need noise. Back in the bank, a woman in line whispered loudly. She should have known better. The words cut deep. The young woman's hands tightened. But she did not cry. Crying would give them comfort. She refused to give that. The manager suddenly looked over. "Why are you still here?" he asked sharply. "You need to leave." The young woman walked forward slowly. She placed the torn pieces on the counter. "Sir," she said calmly, "I will need a report for this." The manager laughed. "A report?" he said. "You brought a fake check. Be thankful I did not call the police." The word police echoed in her mind. She felt fear for 1 second. Then she pushed it away. She knew who she was. She knew who her mother was. "I did nothing wrong," she replied. The manager leaned closer. "You people always say that," he whispered. "Now go." A few customers nodded. Some smiled. The security guard stepped closer. That was when the pain truly hit her. Not the torn check. Not the words. But the silence. No one spoke for her. No one stood with her. She turned slowly. She walked toward a chair and sat down. Her legs felt weak. She stared at the floor. Her phone vibrated in her hand. A message from her mother. "I'm coming." Her chest tightened. Memories rushed back. Her mother working late nights. Her mother missing school events. Her mother teaching her to stay strong. "All this," her mother once said, "is so you never have to beg for respect." A tear rolled down her cheek. She wiped it away quickly. Across the bank, the manager was smiling again. He was enjoying his power. He believed he had put her in her place. He did not know. This was only the beginning. A bank employee walked past her and whispered, "You should just leave." The young woman looked up. "I am waiting," she said quietly. The employee scoffed and walked away. Minutes passed. The air felt thick. Then, the sound of brakes outside. Heads turned. A deep engine hum filled the street. The young woman felt it before she saw it. Something was coming. The manager glanced at the window. A black luxury car stopped outside the bank. Clean, shiny, expensive. People stood up to look. The manager straightened his tie. "Who is that?" someone whispered. The young woman stood slowly. Her hand stopped shaking. Her heart beat steady. She looked at the door and waited, because she knew when her mother arrived, this bank would never be the same again. The bank doors stayed closed. The young black woman stood near the entrance. She did not sit. She did not pace. She waited. Her phone was still in her hand. The torn pieces of the check were folded carefully in her pocket. Not because they mattered, but because what they showed mattered. Inside the bank, life continued. People talked. Keyboards clicked. Money moved. The manager felt proud. He believed he had handled the problem. He believed order was restored. He did not look at the young woman again. To him, she was finished. The young woman stared at the floor. Her mind was calm, but her heart remembered. She remembered her mother's voice. Soft, clear, unshaken. "Never beg," her mother once said. "Stand, even when it hurts." Her phone vibrated. One message. "Mom, I'm 5 minutes away." The young woman swallowed hard. She typed back one word. "Okay." Across the bank, the manager laughed with a customer. He leaned back in his chair. "You see," he said loudly, "this is why we must be careful." The customer nodded. "Yes," she replied. "People try everything." The young woman closed her eyes for a moment. She counted her breath. 1, 2, 3. The manager's words felt heavy, but she let them fall. The security guard shifted his weight. He looked unsure now. Something about the young woman felt different. She was not angry. She was not scared. She was waiting. That made him uncomfortable. Minutes passed. Then, the bank phone rang. The manager answered without thinking. "Yes," he said. There was silence on the other end. Then a calm female voice spoke. "I'm calling about a check you destroyed." The manager frowned. "Who is this?" he asked. "The owner of that check," the voice replied. The manager laughed. "Well," he said, "your daughter should learn not to bring fake documents." The voice paused. Not in shock. Not in fear. In control. "That check," the woman said slowly, "was issued by my company." The manager's smile faded slightly. "Company name?" he asked. The woman said it clearly. The manager froze. His fingers tightened around the phone. That name. He knew it. Very well. It was one of the bank's biggest clients. He swallowed. There must be a mistake, he said quickly. No, the woman replied. There is no mistake. She continued calmly. You embarrassed my daughter. You destroyed legal property. And you refuse verification. The manager stood up. I was just doing my job, he said. The voice stayed calm. Then do it properly, the woman replied. I am outside. The call ended. The manager's face went pale. He looked toward the door. At the same moment, the bank doors opened. Silence fell. A tall black woman walked in. Her steps were slow, confident. She wore a simple suit. No loud colors. No jewelry. But the room felt smaller. Every eye turned. The young woman straightened. Her shoulders relaxed. That was her mother. The manager rushed forward. Ma'am, he said nervously, we can discuss this privately. The woman raised her hand. No, she said calmly. We will discuss it here. She walked past him, straight to her daughter. She placed a hand on her shoulder. Are you okay? She asked. The young woman nodded. Yes, Mom. The mother turned. She looked at the torn check pieces now placed on the counter. She looked at the manager. Then she spoke softly. You judged my daughter by her appearance, she said, and you failed your duty. The manager opened his mouth. No words came out. The bank was silent. The power had shifted, and everyone could feel it. The bank went silent. Not a normal silence. A heavy silence. The kind that makes people stop breathing. The tall black woman stood at the entrance. She did not rush. She did not look around. She knew where she was going. Her shoes clicked softly on the floor. Each step felt loud. The young woman felt her chest loosen. She did not need to look. She knew. That was her mother. The manager stood frozen. His mouth was slightly open. His hands shook. This was not how things were supposed to go. He walked forward quickly. Ma'am, he said, forcing a smile. Welcome. Let's talk in my office. The woman stopped walking. She turned slowly. Her eyes were calm. Sharp. No, she said simply. We will speak here. People in line stepped back. Employees stopped typing. Even the security guard stood straighter. The woman walked past the manager. She went directly to the counter. She placed her purse down. Then she turned to her daughter. Her voice softened. Did you wait long? She asked. The young woman shook her head. I'm okay, she replied. The mother nodded. Then she faced the manager again. You tore my company's check, she said. The manager swallowed. There was confusion, he replied quickly. The amount was unusual. The woman tilted her head slightly. So was your behavior, she said. A quiet gasp moved through the bank. The manager forced a laugh. We get many fake checks, he said. We must protect the bank. The woman leaned forward. You protect systems, she replied. Not egos. The manager felt sweat on his forehead. He looked around. People were watching. Some held their phones. He had lost control of the room. The woman turned to the staff. Who witnessed this? She asked calmly. No one spoke. Then a young teller raised her hand slowly. I saw it, she said quietly. The woman nodded. Thank you for your honesty. The manager stepped in. This is not necessary, he said. The woman ignored him. She pulled out her phone. She tapped the screen once. A screen on the wall came to life. Security footage appeared. Everyone watched. The video showed the manager laughing, then tearing the check, then pointing to the door. The young woman in the video stood still, strong, silent. The real room was frozen. The manager's face turned red. He looked at the security guard. Turn that off, he whispered. The woman raised her hand. No, she said. Let it play. When the video ended, the woman spoke. That check, she said, was for a company expansion. She paused. One that this bank requested to manage. The manager's eyes widened. What? He asked. The woman said the company name again. Clear. Strong. People gasped. The manager stumbled back a step. That's impossible, he said. The woman smiled slightly. Is it? She asked. She stepped closer. You train your staff to judge faces, she continued. Not facts. The manager's voice cracked. I didn't know, he said. I swear I didn't know. The woman looked at him. That, she replied calmly, is the problem. She turned to her daughter. You did nothing wrong, she said. The young woman nodded. The woman turned back to the room. This is why silence is dangerous, she said. Because it protects the wrong people. The manager's knees felt weak. He wiped his face. People who laughed earlier now looked away. The power had fully changed. The woman picked up the torn pieces of the check. She placed them carefully on the counter. "You will reissue this," she said, "and you will answer for today." The manager nodded quickly. "Yes, of course." The woman held his gaze. "This is not over," she said. Then she took her daughter's hand. They stood together, strong, unshaken. The bank had changed forever, and everyone knew it. The bank felt different now. Not loud, not busy, heavy. Every person inside knew something serious was happening. The tall black woman stood near the counter. Her daughter stood beside her. The manager stood across from them, smaller than before, quieter. The woman picked up the torn pieces of the check again. She placed them neatly on the counter. "These papers," she said calmly, "are not trash." Her voice was not loud, but everyone heard it. "They represent trust," she continued. "And today you broke it." The manager opened his mouth. "I didn't know who she was," he said quickly. "If I had known." The woman raised her hand. "No," she said. "You didn't know who she was." The room went silent. "You knew she was a customer," the woman continued. "That should have been enough." The manager lowered his head. His hands trembled. The woman turned to the people watching. "You all saw this," she said, "and most of you stayed silent. Some people looked down. Some shifted uncomfortably." The woman nodded slowly. "That silence," she said, "is why this happens every day." She turned back to the manager. "My daughter came here with respect," she said. She spoke politely. She followed rules. The woman paused. "You tore her dignity before you tore the check." The manager's eyes filled with tears. "I was wrong," he whispered. The woman did not react. She reached in her bag and pulled out a folder. She opened it. Inside were documents. She placed them on the counter. "These are my company papers," she said. "This is my signature." The manager glanced at them. His face drained of color. "I know this company," he said quietly. "Yes," the woman replied. "You should." She leaned closer. "Your bank asked for my partnership last year," she said. "You asked for my money." The manager swallowed hard. I didn't recognize her," he said again. The woman straightened. "That is exactly why she was sent," she replied. The bank gasped. The manager looked confused. "Sent?" he asked. The woman turned to her daughter. Her voice softened. "I told her to go alone," she said. "Not to test you." She paused, but to see the truth. The daughter nodded slowly. "I wanted her to learn," the woman continued, "how the world treats people it thinks are powerless." The manager stepped back. "You used her?" he asked weakly. The woman shook her head. "No," she replied. "I trusted her strength." She placed a hand on her daughter's shoulder. "She passed," she said quietly. The daughter felt her throat tighten. All the pain, all the silence. It had meaning now. The manager's knees gave in. He sat down heavily. Tears ran down his face. "I'm sorry," he said again and again. "I didn't mean." The woman stopped him. "Sorry does not fix systems," she said. "Action does." She turned to the security guard. "Call the regional office," she said calmly. The guard nodded quickly. "Yes, ma'am." The woman looked at the staff. "Everyone who laughed," she said, "remember this feeling." She paused. "Because this is accountability." The manager looked up. "What will happen to me?" he asked quietly. The woman met his eyes. "That depends," she replied, "on what you do next." She slid the torn check pieces toward him. "You will reissue this," she said. "Publicly." The manager nodded. "Yes. And you will apologize," she continued. "Not to me." She looked at her daughter. "To her." The manager stood slowly. He faced the young woman. His voice broke. "I judged you," he said. "I was wrong." The young woman looked at him. She did not smile. She did not gloat. "I only wanted respect," she said quietly. The manager bowed his head. The truth was out now. The power had shifted completely, and the bank would never forget this day. The bank no longer felt safe for the manager. Not because of noise, but because of eyes. Every eye was on him. The manager stood at the counter, holding the torn pieces of the check. His hands shook. His throat felt dry. Across from him stood the young black woman. Calm. Still. Watching. The tall black woman, her mother, stood beside her. Silent. Powerful. The security guard returned quickly. "I called the regional office," he said. "They are on the way." The manager's knees weakened. On the way. That meant everything was real now. This was no longer about a check. It was about accountability. The woman looked at the manager. You will apologize, she said calmly. Not as a favor. She paused. As a responsibility. The manager nodded. He turned to the young woman. His voice cracked. I am sorry, he said. I judged you. The young woman did not respond. Silence filled the space. I treated you unfairly, he continued. I used my power the wrong way. His voice grew weaker. I humiliated you. That word hit the room hard. The woman's eyes softened slightly. She nodded once. That is the truth, she said. The manager wiped his face. People around them whispered. Some looked ashamed. Some looked scared. A woman who laughed earlier now stood frozen. She avoided eye contact. The tall black woman turned to the crowd. This is how harm works, she said. Quiet. Small. Daily. She looked back at the manager. You did not think today mattered, she continued. But it will. The manager nodded again. A phone rang. The bank manager flinched. The security guard answered. Yes, they are here. Moments later, two officials walked in. They wore dark suits. Serious faces. The room stiffened. The woman stepped forward. I'm the CEO of, she said, naming her company. Both officials froze. Yes, ma'am, one said quickly. She explained calmly. Every detail. No shouting. No exaggeration. Just facts. The officials turned to the manager. Is this true? One asked. The manager nodded slowly. Yes, he whispered. One official wrote something down. This is serious misconduct, he said. The manager's shoulders dropped. I understand, he replied. The official turned to the staff. Who else was involved? Silence. Then one teller spoke. I laughed, she said quietly. I shouldn't have. Another employee raised his hand. I said nothing, he admitted. The official nodded. Thank you for your honesty. The tall black woman spoke again. Today is not about punishment alone, she said. It is about change. The official nodded. We will suspend the manager immediately, he said. Pending investigation. The manager closed his eyes. Suspended. His world collapsed in one word. The official continued. And this incident will be documented. The woman nodded. Good. She turned to her daughter. Are you okay? She asked again. The young woman inhaled deeply. Yes, she replied. I am now. The woman turned back to the manager. One last thing, she said. The manager looked up. You will personally reissue the check, she said. In front of everyone. The manager nodded quickly. He took out a new check. His hand shook as he wrote. When he finished, he handed it to the young woman. She accepted it calmly. She did not smile. She did not thank him. She simply nodded. The official turned to the room. This bank will conduct training, he announced. Effective immediately. People murmured. The tall black woman spoke one final time. Respect costs nothing, she said. But disrespect costs everything. The manager broke down. Tears fell freely now. Not because of the check, but because his power was gone. The young woman watched quietly. She felt something new. Not anger. Relief. Justice had spoken. And the lesson was clear. The bank felt quiet again. Not the same quiet as before. This quiet felt clean. Honest. The manager sat at his desk, broken. The staff stood in silence. The officials gathered their files. Everything that needed to be said had been said. The tall black woman turned to her daughter. Let's go, she said softly. They walked toward the exit together. Every eye followed them. Not with judgment. With respect. The young woman paused near the door. She stopped. She turned around. Her mother looked at her. Do you want to say something? She asked gently. The young woman nodded. She took a small step forward. Her voice was calm. Clear. I came here like anyone else, she said. I waited. I followed rules. I spoke with respect. People listened closely. I was not asking for special treatment, she continued. I was asking to be treated like a human. The room stayed silent. You looked at my clothes, she said. My skin. And you decided my worth. The manager lowered his head. The young woman took a breath. But today, she said, I learned something. She looked around. Power does not always speak, she said. Sometimes it waits. Her mother smiled slightly. The young woman continued. I forgive you, she said, looking at the manager. Gasps filled the room. The manager looked up, shocked. I forgive you, she repeated. but I will never forget this lesson. She paused. Forgiveness is not weakness, she said. It is freedom. The manager's tears returned. Thank you, he whispered. The young woman nodded. She turned back to the crowd. If you see this happen again, she said, do not stay silent. She pointed gently. Silence helps injustice grow. The tall black woman stepped forward. My daughter learned strength from silence, she said. But the world must learn from truth. She placed her hand on her daughter's back. We did not come here to destroy anyone, she continued. We came to reveal something. She looked at the staff. Every customer deserves dignity, she said. Not because of money. She paused. But because of humanity. The officials nodded. One of them spoke. This incident will change our policies, he said. The tall black woman nodded once. Good, she replied. The mother and daughter turned to leave. The bank doors opened. Light poured in. As they stepped outside, people on the street looked at them. They did not know the story, but they felt the strength. The young woman breathed deeply. She felt lighter, stronger. Her mother looked at her. You handled yourself well, she said. The young woman smiled. You taught me, she replied. They walked toward the black car. Before getting in, the young woman looked back at the bank one last time. That building would never forget her. Inside the bank, the manager sat quietly. He stared at the counter, at the place where he tore the check. He understood now. Not all power wears expensive clothes. Not all wealth is loud. Some power walks in quietly and changes everything. The car drove away. The street returned to normal. But something had shifted. A lesson had been written, not on paper, but in people's minds and hearts. Final narration message. Never judge a person by appearance. Respect costs nothing, and dignity belongs to everyone. Because sometimes, the person you disrespect today is the one who teaches you the most important lesson of your life.